Lucy Beresford and welcome to this week's edition of Love Decoded, brought to you by eHarmony. That's the site that takes finding love seriously. If you are fascinated by the science of love, decoding the mysteries of attraction and unraveling all of our ideas about romance, then this is the show for you. But we just love talking about relationships. That's what we were doing on air before we came on air, which is why we've got such big smiles on our faces. This week we are discussing modern romance, and we're going to be answering not just your questions throughout the show, but also we're going to be taking your comments. So if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, put it all down in the comments now and we'll read that out during the show. I'm delighted to be joined by eHarmony's in-house relationship expert, Rachel Lloyd. Hello Rachel, fantastic to have you back. And I'm delighted to welcome to the show for the first time, hopefully not the last, life coach and mentor, Faisal Khokhar. Hello, good to have you here. So we have already started talking about modern relationships. The interesting thing is that romance is often regarded as that thing that is missing from so many people's lives. They complain about it. And I was just wondering, can you just tell me a little bit more maybe about
give you some stats?
eHarmony's research?
I've gone into the eHarmony lab.
Rather dramatic figure, I think.
Yes, 1 in 6 say romance is dead.
And are these single people or
no?
people
It's
in
a universal study. And 1 in 7 people in marriages feel that romance is dead.
So what does that tell us about the quality of those relationships that they're having? Faisal, when you're working with your clients, are you just working with single people or are you also working with people in relationships?
Predominantly single people.
And what are they talking to you about romance? Is it a vision for them as something they want to have in a relationship, or is it that word that gets missed out?
I think they're trying to create the romance, or they're trying to, they have more like an expectation when they turn up at the date. They think, oh, it's going to be so romantic, it's going to have, you know, the highs and the lows of romance.
But surely there are things we have to be doing to make that romance happen. So what sort of thing?
I don't think dates are romantic at all.
Do you think they're quite clinical?
No, I think, generally, I think, online dating, it's a great way to meet people. 1 in 5 people find love online, but it's also quite terrifying and daunting going out on a date. And I think, romance is not necessarily the key thing in people's minds. But I don't know, as a guy, as a man, you may approach it differently and feel there's a pressure to be romantic.
What are the differences for the men and the women?
Well, I think when I speak to the women, and they want their romance, but they find it's missing. So it's become, like you said, very clinical. It's like a filtering system. You turn up at the date, it's usually pretty dynamically similar. So like one day after another is very similar.
Yeah.
And they're not adding the romance in that.
So what are the small gestures that could transform, let's say, a first, second or third date into something memorably romantic?
I don't think it has to be huge.
No, I agree.
So a lot of guys, think, oh, I've got to take out for a meal or a show or something. It just has to be very small. But
such as, what sort of things?
The first thing I've noticed is the guy normally is very indecisive. So women are complaining, he's very indecisive. So he's like, okay, should we go out? What about this? What about this?
Yes.
And they turn up at the date and then it's, what do you want to do?
Is that because they're nervous and they're not being themselves?
Are they afraid to be assertive? Are they afraid to come on too strong and be clear and masculine?
I love the way we're interrogating Faisal. Come on, tell us how many.
No, we want to know, the male brain, tell us.
No, they are they are nervous, but they're also afraid as well.
Right.
Now, so when I've been researching into this,
understandably.
Why are they so indecisive? And then one of the rules is that they don't want to look bad.
Yeah.
So they're kind of approval seeking.
But that's not very sexy, is it?
No.
I mean, generally speaking, as someone who's obviously works with a dating brand, a prestigious one, but also has been on many internet dates over the years, I want somebody to be a bit more of a man often. I feel like when they're dithering, that's not very attractive.
It's a turn-off, yeah. It's a turn-off.
But also it's not very authentic.
No.
Because actually this person isn't probably normally like that. But they're putting on an act, or they're putting on a front that says, I'm soft, I'm approachable, I'm trying to give you the space to make the choices. Yeah. Whereas actually if people were a little bit more authentic about who they were and the kinds of people they are, maybe that would come across.
In all fairness though, that it's a balance, isn't it? Because I have had people online that I've spoken to that have been very controlling about, like, before we've even gone on the date, where we go, what I should wear, that kind of thing. And that also just doesn't work.
It depends on the tone.
Yeah, okay.
It depends on the tone. So if I said to you, look, how I did dates before was very, how about this, how about this? I don't want to get it right. I want to, you know, like I want to...
I see.
Get her approval.
Yeah.
But now what I've learned is it's okay to lead in this. There's a difference between leadership and controlling. There's a distinction between leadership. Controlling is about what my needs are. The leadership is what the greater needs of the greater good.
I see.
And also that lovely idea that, you know, if somebody does compliment you and says, I really love it when you wear that shirt, or you look fantastic in that pair of jeans, or something like that, and I'm being really carefully gender non-specific here, that actually that is quite attractive. Somebody pays you a compliment. Again, it doesn't mean they always want you to wear those particular clothes, or they're saying, you know, I'm controlling your wardrobe.
Yeah.
But it's that sort of, it's those little gestures or comments that oil the wheels of romance that mean that you're paying attention to what that person looks like and what makes them look good, and it in turn makes you feel good.
Yeah, it's attention to detail, isn't it?
Do you think therefore that people in relationships need to make specific time to be romantic, to kind of have that as a conscious decision, to pay the compliments or to do the gestures, to buy the bouquet of flowers, or to make some kind of surprise? Is that all part of being romantic?
More of a ritual. So like a consistent ritual, but obviously adding variety to it. But I think it's one of those elements that's missing. It's the recipe, it's the ingredient in the recipe. So if you want to have a romantic, add a romance to it, but then it takes effort. It takes time and effort into this, and it's an investment. So you invest your time into this, you invest creative ideas into this. This is how I see it.
Does eHarmony kind of drill down into some of those statistics where...
We look at people's romantic expression and how important romance is to them when they join. So, you know, we have the long questionnaire and we evaluate people's personality traits. And so that we get the most compatible matches, you know, that is one of the areas that we mine. And so it's not like the most important thing. Romance is going to be, you know, on a sliding scale. It's not going to be the number one thing, I suppose. But it is... I think really what we mean by romance is how we express our feelings for each other, how we value the relationship. But I think it can mean it's different gestures for different people. Some people love being told, you know, I love you, you know, often.
Well, there are these nominally five languages
That's
love.
right.
I often think there might be six because sense of humour seems to get missed off in that list.
Yeah.
But is it a good idea to try to work out whether, again, you are compatible with your partner, because their idea of romance might be taking you away for a holiday once a year.
Yeah.
Your idea of romance is doing the washing up or a bouquet of flowers or something.
eHarmony research suggests that actually it is the smaller gestures that count a lot. So it doesn't have to be the big bouquets or the
big
romantic, you know, surprise, you know, off we go to Champneys or wherever it is. It's more about things like doing the washing up for somebody, noticing the shoes they've bought, taking them a cup of tea in the morning when they're in bed. That kind of thing goes a long way. I don't know, what do you find?
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, bring me cups of tea.
Yeah, that's very important to me.
Oh, absolutely, I agree with it. It's the small gestures, because in the past I've realised, okay, you know, if I do something really grandiose and it's really big, then that romance will last for months or years.
It's like an investment.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So, okay, you know that cost like £2,000 and I did this and it was so grand. It's okay.
Yeah.
So your romance is topped up.
Yes. It's like a bank.
Okay, so now I'm like, I can just step back and I don't have to do anything.
Interestingly enough, I have to say, I once had a boyfriend that said I love you so often that I had to ask him to stop.
Okay.
Is that possible? I'd throw that out to the viewers, actually. You're listening to Love Decoded, here brought to you by eHarmony. And we would love to know, actually, whether you do agree, particularly with that last comment from Rachel there, that it is possible to say, I love you too much. Is that possible? We now have our first question from the audience. If you also would like to add your question, please type that into the box on the Facebook page. Susie is asking us, my partner was really romantic when we first started dating, but now we've been together a while, he rarely makes an effort. Can we ever go back to the way that it was?
I think that's one for you.
This is quite a common question I get. Can we go back? Yes, you can, provided there's the output requires certain input. So we need to go back to what was the ingredients and what was the recipe that you had at the beginning. And also, do you want to? Do you both want to?
I was going to say, because my question about that is, do you ever want to go back? Because presumably you want to take your relationship forward.
Yeah.
You want to actually grow it. So you don't want to go back to that limited place where it was all about affirmation and doing things because you were hoping to give a good impression. You now want to get yourself to a place, Susie, where you're in a great relationship with this extra stuff happening, not regressing to a stage where it was all about trying to impress the other person. It should be a much more organic process, don't you think?
Well, it takes effort and time as well. So, for example, I see the guys, women do say to me, like, he made a lot of effort. And I can recall as well, I made a lot of effort in the beginning because it was like trying to win you over. And now, for me, the challenge or the win, it's not no longer there. And also, when you look deeper into this as well, then you go into, like, what is your energy by that? So I talk about the sexual energy between two people. So you have the masculine and feminine. And just like you take a magnet, so if you have a north and a south, and you put them by each other, they have this attraction towards each other. If you turn one around, they cause repulsion. So in relationships, what happens over time, you've noticed that their energies are now repelling each other rather than actually attracting one another. So
how can you change that then?
So if your natural essence is feminine, in moments of romance, connecting to that, and if your natural essence is masculine, connecting to that part.
So, but could I have masculine energy rather than feminine?
So we have both.
How does it work?
So we have both. All of us have the same, both masculine and feminine.
Yeah.
Most women have more feminine energy. Most men have more masculine energy. Now, what happens is over time we start building these shells. So shell energy. So when, for example, if you look at a woman who's spent a lot of time on her own, or she's been challenged a lot and she's in a high-powered job, so she'll build that masculine shell in order to start achieving, to doing things.
But in a male-dominated kind of environment.
Absolutely, or just to get things done. So the male energy is very much about getting things done.
Okay.
So when you turn up at a date, or when you turn up at a date night, you're turning up at a masculine energy, and then if both of you are turning up in male energy, so there's going to be repulsion. So it requires the harmony of it. It requires the masculine and the feminine. So the north and the south of a magnet to create that attraction.
Do you have a burning question? Do you agree with what Faisal has just said there? Do you agree with Rachel's assessment that it is possible to have someone tell you that they love you far too much? I'm so glad you said it, actually. I want you to join in with the conversation in the comments and be sure to share your view of the show, perhaps even share this particular show on Facebook. We're going to be taking more of your questions after the break, but we're now going to be looking at one of eHarmony's love success stories.
I was scared to death of dating. I looked at what I really wanted to get out of life, and that was when I decided to go on eHarmony and try a different method.
I had been living overseas and had recently moved back, and all my friends were either married or in long-term relationships, so eHarmony seemed to be the good way to go.
I'm Martin.
I'm Morwenna. We live in Bristol and we've been together 8 years. I liked the matching process, so I felt that anybody that I met would have invested some time and effort into it.
The whole process of going through that questionnaire really had you think about who it was you wanted to meet as well.
It got me thinking about what I wanted in a partner rather than what somebody might want in me, and that was a big shift. I just thought you were too good to be true, really. Yeah, I had this wish list and then kind of secret secondary wish list, and yeah, there's still things on there that he does now, and I'm like, oh, that's off that secondary secret wish list that no one knows about.
I certainly wouldn't have approached you in the pub. I'd have been scared to death. So. But the whole eHarmony process, it's such a gentle approach. You get to know really deep things about each other quite early on.
I think anybody looking in could see that we're happy and content.
Something in that match has worked here, I'm pretty sure of that.
I think eHarmony does make happy relationships. Yeah, certainly made one here.
Yeah.
You're watching Love Decoded, brought to you by eHarmony, the site that takes dating seriously. I'm Lucy Beresford, and today I am joined by Rachel Lloyd, who's eHarmony's relationship expert, and life coach and mentor, Faisal Khokhar. And we're talking about modern romance. It's Romance Awareness Month. I don't know if you knew that. Yes. You do now. Do pay attention. Do join in with the conversation in the comments on Facebook. Don't forget to share the show. But also, if you agree with what we've said, if you disagree with what you've said, we would love to hear from you. Now, Daniel has got in touch. He says, my girlfriend wants me to be more romantic, but I don't know how. Is it just about buying her presents and flowers more often? That kind of helps sometimes, but it's not just about that, is it? Faisal.
So it's very common for guys to be told, be something. And then there's a confusion. Okay, be more romantic. What does that mean? Or how do I go about this? Because the guy, most men do want to make you happy. Most men do want to achieve, but they don't know how we can achieve this, or how can we achieve what's required. So this requires more communication. And the communication comes from both sides. The first question is like, what do you feel when I do this, X, Y, and Z? And then the feminine can, women can express in feelings. So, for example, I feel loved when you do this. I feel connected when you do this. When you do this, this is what I feel. And then it's about repeating this again over and over again.
And it's not just the man being romantic to the woman. I mean, presumably those conversations can also happen the other way around, as saying to the man, what do you love that I do for you?
Yes, it's quite sexist in a way that we expect men to be the romantic people and to sort of, stir up all the romance. Yeah, I thought I'd be fair, as we're being very gender specific today. So, and again, one of my poor ex-boyfriends, and they're probably like, what's she going to say next? But I did have an ex that said to me, you never buy me little gifts or anything. And basically, the lady before me had bought him like things, like little mugs she'd buy him and little bits and bobs where she went about her day.
But that again is this 5 languages of love. There are some people who really regard gifts as the ultimate explanation or evidence of love.
Well, I thought it was a bit gooey. I didn't want to sort of spend my day thinking about little tokens.
You only have to go into card shops to see that there is a whole universe of people out there who think that cuddly toys are the way to a person's heart. And that's great if it works for the two of you, or if it works for a particular person. But it might not, for your partner or for you, as long as you identify that actually what I would want is time with you, or what I would want is for you to say I love you,
so
but obviously not too much.
Like Faisal was saying.
But it's also about knowing yourself well, because you can't expect your partner to be a mind reader. You have to know yourself what would really work and turn you on, surely.
Yeah, absolutely, finding out your needs and how to effectively communicate them.
But you don't always know what your needs are until they're not being met. And that's how you find out.
Yeah, when you still just look around and think, well, why do I feel unsettled in this relationship?
Why do I feel
unfulfilled?
Yeah.
So paying attention to that side of you, so that you can then, it would be like the same as being in the bedroom.
Yeah.
You begin to work out what turns you on. Sorry, always. Why not? Working out what turns you on puts you in a better position to be able to say to your current partner, future partners, this is what I love. I love it when you do this.
I find that so embarrassing, but it is quite important.
That's a whole other show.
I mean, it's like almost like I put a duvet over my head and say what I want,
Well, that's appropriate. You're in a bed with the duvet. Yeah. That is a whole other show. Let's get back to Maria, who is asking, I really struggle with saying I love you. Maybe this is in relation to the comment that Rachel had put. I feel like people say it too often when they don't really mean it. But it's starting to cause problems with my girlfriend of 6 months. Should I say it to make her happy, even if I'm not sure I'm there yet?
I think Maria's the perfect partner for me. Just throw that in.
Right, Maria, here we can set something up here. Faisal, is it about giving the other person what you know they want, which is that important slogan, that important message? Or is it about being true to yourself and saying, I only want to say those magical 3 words when I really mean it?
We should have a balance between that. Because we forget that, how a person will receive this as well. It's important how, the 5 love languages.
Yeah.
It's very important that how it's received as well. So, for example, if somebody gave me flowers and I'm like, flowers isn't for me. Or if somebody said, I love you in their way. but what is the way I feel connected to me? And then it's understanding and authentically doing that as well.
Yeah, for me it was about engulfment. You spotted that, we were talking during the break. So when I was saying that my ex used to say I love you too often, I felt a bit flooded, I suppose is another way of saying it. And I felt like he was just tossing that phrase out because there was a need in him, which felt a bit stressful actually.
So you know what he was communicating?
What was he saying?
He was saying, this is what I would like to receive.
Oh, so the clue might have been that he needed me to say it even half as much.
Yeah.
Or say it at all.
I did say it.
Because
once a week.
For us guys, it's very much about, because we're quite logical driven, so we're very head driven. So things that activate or kind of like land us on the logic part is what we actually resonate with. So if you were to bring flowers, it would mean as little than, for example, if you told us something in logic.
Do you get the feeling that Faisal doesn't want you and me to buy him flowers? I'm picking
Yeah, no,
it up.
please-
Not picking it up.
He's not into
Damn, that's
You
what
could
we'd
buy me a
really done.
toolkit or something that would resonate more with me than flowers.
There you are, though, but you've said, and now we know.
Yeah.
Now we know. Now we know. Maria, I hope that helped you. Did it help? Did we finally reach a conclusion? The answer,
Well-
the question was, should I say it? My feeling
I don't
is,
think you should say it unless you feel it.
I know. I don't think you should.
No.
Otherwise, it's not going to be authentic.
But explain why and what might work.
Yes,
This is, you know.
because when you eventually do say it, it's going to be even more meaningful for your girlfriend. That would be the key thing.
Yeah.
Seb has got in touch. He asks, almost all my relationships have ended because girlfriends say they don't know how I feel about them. I'm not good with words, and I think that's the problem, but I'd like to be able to be more open about my feelings. How should I start? Let's go with Faisal on this
Yeah,
one.
let's pick on Faisal. Why can't men show their feelings, Faisal?
Oh, that's another show. What is his intention with that person? If the person's intention is, I really want this person, then they will really pursue, they will really want to invest into that relationship. If it's half-hearted, like half, then you're like, maybe, maybe not.
But maybe
The trouble is there's a pattern here though, isn't
Yeah.
there? Basically, it's not just this current girlfriend, it's past girlfriends.
Okay.
And they've all said the same thing, which is that they don't know how he feels. So this is a man who is either reluctant or unable to let those feelings out. But that could be, a real self-protection thing, that there must be something maybe in Seb's past
So there's something deeper going on here.
Yeah,
So
totally.
there's something deeper, commitment issues.
about...
So he's avoiding,
Yeah,
as soon as he likes to chase, he likes to build that connection. And then when the relationship gets too much or where it requires commitment, then it's like backing off. Now the reason, one of the reasons we have for commitment issues, men have commitment issues, is they have this enmeshment with their mothers. So this is like a huge link. So like the mothers have used, kind of like portrayed their emotions onto men, like little boys. Because this is what I suffered with, and then what happened was that when I felt engulfment of emotions, I want to just go, back off.
But I don't think that's necessarily gender specific, because I can relate to what you're saying too.
yeah, of
Because
course.
I had a mother that I was very enmeshed with. I mean, I love my mum to pieces, but probably that can make me a bit avoidant too in relationships.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly, we saw
Yeah.
it in Love Island as well. We were talking about this in the past, that there were different characters in that villa. Some people you could see were really going into relationships very quickly, perhaps too quickly.
And then wore the heart on their sleeve.
And then there were others who were, even when there were people available, people who were coming into the villa saying, I am keen on this particular person, they would then shy away. That would almost be the trigger for them taking a step back. And I think that, again, romance are these moments, these gestures where you actually put yourself out there.
You take a risk.
You take a risk,
Yeah.
whether it's buying flowers, buying a toolkit, taking someone for dinner, or saying I love you.
Yeah.
You're taking a risk because, in truth, as you say, you are also signalling what you yourself want. What you want is to feel understood but not flooded. It is such a delicate dance. You are watching eHarmony's Love Decoded, and we would love to hear from you. We'd love to know what you think of some of the ideas we're putting out there, and also we'd love your questions. Laura has got in touch and she asks, my boyfriend's idea of romance is an expensive dinner or a fancy weekend away, but I would prefer just to spend more time together, even if it's just a weekend on the sofa. How can we find something that works for both of us? We're back to the language of love, aren't we, Rachel?
Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to that. For me, spending meaningful, connected time together is probably the most important thing. And actually, you know, sometimes I think that relationships can have so much activity in them. I've been in relationships where it's kind of, let's do this, that, and you never pause and you never really connect. So, yeah, it's about languages of love, and it's about, what was the specific question here? It was about...
So this is someone whose boyfriend, it's very flamboyant, really.
Flamboyant.
With the, you know, it's the dinners, expensive dinners and weekends away. So there's, in what I take away from that is that there's a lot of money being spent, and it's the money that the boyfriend imagines signals how much he loves Laura. But Laura is saying what my language of love is time. What would make me feel that you loved me is if you and I'm hypothesizing here, got off your phone, got off or got away from whatever it is that is enabling you to spend all this money on me.
And also,
just give me some of your time. And that quality of attention is more what she wants. Now, what she wants to know from us, how can I kind of get to a point where we're both having our needs met? And that's the tricky thing, isn't it?
That's communication.
Clearly, this person probably feels that if I flash my cash, that somehow makes me feel a better person, a more lovable boyfriend. This is what I'm meant to be doing on this planet.
As guys, we kind of like taught that in the media. So when you watch the movies, the guy's like,
splash the cash.
He's bringing a limo, then he takes her to an expensive meal, then flies her somewhere else, and you think, wow, this is our expectation.
That will puts men under pressure.
I had a friend who ended up in a relationship with someone who was quite wealthy, and we can joke about pitching up and flash dinners, but it got to the point where he was kind of taking her everywhere in a helicopter, and it actually made her sick, physically sick, because of the motion sickness. So it kind of became a metaphor for him giving her almost the one thing that she didn't want. That relationship, they've worked that through, because I think what you do is you do have those conversations.
There's a plane now.
Laura, in terms of private advice, jet. I think what it's about having that conversation, and we've talked about these languages of love. We should probably be explicit here, which is to say that basically the theory goes that each of us has a preference for a way in which love gets expressed. And for some of us, it's about time. For you, it's about time. And for someone like your boyfriend, it's about spending money or gifts, giving gifts. And for other people, it's about the actual words, whether it's saying I love you or maybe writing poems, telling stories, that kind of thing. For other people, it's about tasks, acts of service, they're called, what I call chores.
Which is a very masculine, kind of typical masculine area, isn't it?
Well, you say that, but a lot of women also say, if only my partner, again, not gender specific, if only my partner would look after the kids a bit more, or take the rubbish out or whatever, that actually they too often give the impression that would really make a big difference for them. But obviously, sometimes it isn't like that. So, Laura, I hope that helps. Final question here, actually, from Vanessa. Vanessa says, I'm single and I'm on dating apps. Hopefully eHarmony, but it feels like no one really tries with their messages, and I'm romantic, and I would love to meet someone who is similarly romantic, who prioritizes romance too. How can I find someone willing to put the effort in? Faisal.
Oh, okay. That's a challenging one, because first of all, what is it that you're putting out there? So does it really appeal to the kind of person that you want to attract? So are you seen to the right person? So are you seen? Do
you think some people unintentionally sabotage themselves? That they kind of almost put out there the one thing they don't want?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Sometimes the underlining for that is shame. Shame normally prevents us trying to get closer, because if somebody gets closer to me, they get to see me, they get to know who I am.
So I'll create this online persona, particularly dating, and it's not really...
Is there a danger that someone like Vanessa, who's always putting it out there, who's saying, I'm very romantic, every time I go on a date, I show the romance, Instead, because we had this example with you where you had this boyfriend who tells you I love you, and Faisal says, well, that's partly because he's trying to get
me to say
it.
Sorry,
but
David.
the message doesn't get through, and so the poor man says it over and over again. And is Vanessa in danger of putting too much romance out there, and the other person is thinking, oh well, I don't have to put the romance out there because there's so much of it on the table already.
Wearing your heart on your sleeve.
Is there a danger that if you show too much, if you give too much, then the other person can just kind of sit back and think,
absolutely,
yeah, because need to try.
Yeah, because it could be an expectation. Am I expected to be romantic all the time? Would she only feel love when I'm always romantic? Then what happens when I take a breather from that?
What I would like to add is that our research, an independent survey that we did, found that 50% of people admit that the texting that they do on dating apps, and generally, they don't put much thought into. So, you know, they just kind of ping out messages on dating platforms and off they go. And that's partly because we lead busy lives. It's partly because it's just the commodification of online dating. So, I mean, I would always encourage people to come to a premium site like eHarmony where it's a bit more meaningful, the whole process.
That was our last question. If we didn't get to your questions this week, don't worry. We will be back live next Tuesday at 12:30 when our subject is going to be finding happiness beyond the honeymoon stage. So if you've got any questions or any comments about that topic or anything else related to love, dating, relationships, even what we've been talking about today, get in touch now via Facebook or via Twitter at eHarmony UK, or head to eHarmony's dating advice site for further information. Tune in next week. Goodbye. I'm Lucy Beresford. See you soon.